Hello. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Yes, it's Monday, May 5th. You are here on my channel for your weekly live dose of real estate reality. My name is Jackie Baker. We talk about all things real estate here, the housing market, all that fun stuff. And we're going to be talking about how sellers are now forced to slash their prices because buyers are being a little more choosy. Why? Because there's more homes to choose from, and that is a good thing. So we're going to discuss that tonight. Before I get started, I want to point out the comment at the top there. If you recently got an offer accepted, you're under contract, you closed on a home, tell us about it. Put it in the chat. We want to hear about it. We want to celebrate it because even though the housing market could be kind of depressing for a lot of people, there's still a lot of good things happening. People are buying homes and we want to talk about it. We want to celebrate it. So make sure you put that in there. Also, if you have any questions, you know what to do. Type question before you put your question in. So my lovely producer, Jen, behind the scenes, can easily find your question and she can put it up on the screen so we can answer it. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on my special guest. He's been on before, and I had to always bring him back because we always had such a good conversation. Please welcome back Mr. Joe Pareca.
Hello. Hey,
what's
Jackie.
up, Joe?
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing awesome. So we have to talk about this. And now it's like getting interesting, right? Sellers are starting to slash their prices.
Yep.
I think this is a really good thing. So
I think so too.
Yeah. So oh geez. Joe.
What?
She's here.
No.
Should we bring her on?
I mean, it's your stream. It's up to you.
All right. She's here to crash our party. We have a third guest here.
It's about to get wild.
Welcome. Here she is, Jen Sylvester.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Oh my God, I can't with you.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my God. Oh,
Hey,
you're always up to something, girl. I love it.
That was great.
All
That
right.
might have been the best entrance
That
I've
was
ever
the
seen
best.
any guest make on any show or stream ever.
That was the best ever.
oh, I couldn't resist, Jackie.
The best.
I couldn't resist.
Oh my God.
I can get out of this. How do I get out of this?
I was wondering why your camera was turned off. I'm like,
Yeah, I was like, what's
God,
happening?
she's up to something. Oh my God, I knew it.
Oh,
Anyway,
I couldn't resist. Happy Cinco de Mayo,
Happy Cinco de
everyone.
Mayo. So I wanted to do something different this week to have all three of us on at the same time because we're buds. We're going to each other's live streams. I'm like, how much fun would it be? Let's have all three of us on. So
Yeah.
because we're always, it's always a great conversation with you guys. So let's all like talk at the same time, okay? So anyway, so it's the same old, right? We're talking about, again, the sellers are now slashing prices because buyers are getting a little too, well, I'm not complaining about buyers, right? Buyers are getting a little more choosy, right? Because there's more homes to choose from. So the Market Watch article that I pulled this week, and Jen, no comments about the ads on the article.
I will behave myself.
You please do. Okay. So discouraging, frustrated sellers are cutting house prices by tens of thousands of dollars as buyers grow more selective. The typical home seller is asking for 9% more than what the home eventually sells for, Redfin data shows. Okay. Oh, it would help to log in, wouldn't it? I'm a bad.
Yeah, if we actually want to see the article.
You know what, you guys, you can all just.
Even the headline is so funny to me. Like the whole oh gosh, sellers having to slash these prices and 9%. And and I've said this before on both your guys' streams. It's so interesting to me how you can go from for 2, 3, and 4 years we're like, oh God, there's no inventory and everything's so expensive and we need some relief. And then the moment that homes sell on the market, just a few days longer, it's like, oh God, sellers slashing prices.
That's exactly it, Joe. That is exactly it. Okay, so Market Watch isn't letting me in, so I'm a big loser. So anyway, the gist of it is, So the gist of the article was obviously that's right. They're overpricing their homes by 9% right off the bat. And I think this is what we're seeing a lot of around the country. Now we know inventory is rising right in the South. I talk about this every week and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse. But sellers do have to come to the realization that you can't overprice it anymore. You just can't.
Right.
And
Right.
that mentality of, well, I want to net 575, but can I list it at 600 or can I list it at 625 and then we can negotiate? I think people to still have that mentality, or they have the mentality that, hey, my neighbor sold it for this amount of money. I want to get that price too.
Yeah.
But we're in a different market right now. Now, Joe, you're in California, as we all know.
Yeah.
It's still hot out there, right?
Yeah.
The market. I know the weather's hot.
The weather sucks today, actually. It is like overcast and like 65 degrees. It's terrible today. But real estate wise, yeah, we're still cooking along pretty good. We are seeing more inventory, and we're seeing the inventory stay on the market a little bit longer, but it's really a tale of two listings, right? You either have a great listing that is presented well, that's priced properly, and it sells quickly.
Right.
Or you've got the listing with the seller that has the pie in the sky dollar amount, or this is my favorite. I'm not going to prepare my home at all for sale. I'm not even going to open the blinds and let in some sunlight, and I still want top dollar, like back in the COVID days where you could just think about your home being sold and it would sell. So we're still seeing, if it's a good property, presented well, priced appropriately, it's going to sell very fast. In fact, in the last probably 2 weeks, my office has had 7 or 8 listings come to market, and all but one have already sold or already in escrow. And that's fairly standard around here. So that's kind of what's going on that's what's going on in the greater LA area right now.
Okay. Sylvester, I know things are still nuts up in Massachusetts for you.
They are. And I mean, the Northeast is the Northeast, right, Jackie? Yep. I mean, that's, where you're at, maybe a little different than where I'm at in Massachusetts, but still, we're in a situation where the market is like, appreciation's softening a bit, but it's not downward. There's not a downward slide, but the article, because I've researched, that I've been watching that with, certain states and price cuts. And I did a live stream a couple weeks ago, I feel like, on, price cuts, and it was starting to grow. And my opinion of it is most definitely like, put it to you this way, and we talk, the three of us, we talk about this all the time. It's all in how the media spins the data. And it's a much more attractive, more exciting, getting more people like, yeah, the market is finally crashing. It's much more exciting to say that, sellers are slashing prices or buyers are digging their heels in and not offering as much. And it's a much less sexy thing to say that the market is shifting. There are sellers that are ignoring that. They're putting it on at the price that it was 6 months ago. And then reality sets in when nobody buys it and they have to drop the price.
Exactly.
So is it because the market is sliding, or you have a lot of sellers that are digging their heels in and don't want to face reality? Right. Because the fact of the matter is that a house that sells that is priced properly out of the gate, the first 7 to 10 days, they almost always sell at or above asking price if it's priced properly. And we've talked about this, the fact that, like, what's a proper price? Well, start at $1 and work your way up. Yep. And once you get to that tipping point, that's what the value is to the buyer. Yeah. And if you can do that and just maybe scale it, if you're in a market that's a competitive market, you scale it back just a scotch, the bell's going to ring. You're not going to have price cuts, and you're going to sell it for more than if you started high and ended up lower. Right. Yeah. So it's like this, the data doesn't tell the whole story.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's a good point. Right. That's a really good point. Yeah. And I think it's important.
You're so right. No, but you know what though? We all know how life is here in Jersey, right? But I am seeing pockets now around the state where things are a little bit slower. They're not selling as quick. I noticed that last week. We went on a listing appointment. My teammate and I, we went down to Central Jersey, and I was a little surprised. I'm like, oh, these aren't selling as fast as
That's the
where we
consumer
are.
confidence.
Yeah.
The consumer confidence index on the expectation side has slid quite a bit.
Yep.
You know, people are starting to pull back just to like a wait and see, especially there's so many changes going on,
Yeah.
you know, across the country with it, whether it be with tariffs or with, you know, interest rates or with prices. And then you see an article and you're like, maybe I should wait a little longer, or maybe the job situation is a little questionable.
Absolutely.
Whatever. They're like, I will pay that, but I'm going to wait a couple months, 3 months, and just make sure the job is safe. Make sure, you know, all the things, just kind of sit back and wait and see what happens.
Yep.
And I think that that's happening in all markets.
Exactly.
All markets, not just,
agree.
you know, pockets.
So we have some wins. We have some real estate wins here. Devin says he's closing on the 14th. Congrats,
right.
Devin.
Congrats.
That's amazing. Laura just closed on her house in North Carolina last Friday. Congrats,
right.
Laura. Best wishes on your new home. This is exciting. Stephanie sharing a win. We're doing a home inspection tomorrow. Yes,
fantastic.
Awesome. Yay. Woohoo. I love it. Love it. Love it. What else do we got? Do we got any other wins here, Jen? Stacy, I'm enjoying your live show while having tacos and a margarita. Yes,
tacos.
Love it. Yes, we love our tacos. Hello, Miss H. I'm interested in buying duplex. I don't want any junk places in the Kansas City area. How would I find something? Is there a list to see that show newer places? So, are you looking for? Newer places? Are you talking new construction? You can just like, if you're looking for like new construction, just, you know, Google new construction in Kansas City. Otherwise, partner with a buyer's agent. Just start interviewing real estate agents that could help you with your purchase, and they'll have all the inside info on that.
Can I add, I'm going to add to that real quick, because I actually got a viewer reached out to me earlier over the weekend, and I haven't had a chance to dig into this data to, you know, but I can understand. I know what's going to happen when I do. And basically what she had done is gone through all the popular website portals, you know, your Zillow, your Realtor.com, your Redfin, you know, yada, yada, and did a search. And the number of homes that turned up for each site differed. Zillow had this many, Redfin had this many, Realtor.com had this many. And as all this ridiculous infighting is happening with like who gets to list what video, what listing on what site and all that nonsense, it's getting to, it's almost like you have to jump either one of two things. Either you jump around, like not like the 80s song.
Right. Jump around.
But Jackie, you're smart because you know exactly what I'm talking about. But like, you got to do your due diligence and look at multiple sites, set up accounts on multiple sites, or you put all your faith in your buyer's agent. Even if you have a really, really, really good buyer's agent, you still want to do your homework, because the buyer's agent is serving more than one buyer, and it will, I mean, they do have access to MLS, which is basically like where it starts. That's the best data source, but they don't always, you're looking for yourself. They're working on many different clients.
Exactly.
So you're going to see it way before the buyer's agent sees it.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep. Poppy says, here in the triangle of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Raleigh-Durham, houses for sale are definitely sitting a long time, and sellers, even for newly built homes, are slashing prices here. Yeah, so this is what I'm finding. Those areas that have a lot of new construction, like the Carolinas, Atlanta, down in Florida, like where you're seeing a lot of new construction, I think this is where you're seeing the market stalling, because there's so much inventory, and the buyer and the builders are now offering crazy incentives. So the video I'm putting out, oh my gosh, now it's coming out in 2 weeks. I got ahead of myself. You know, I mentioned about like this year could be a good year for people to buy new construction. Now I know I'm contradicting myself because I did a video about like builders you shouldn't buy from, but if you're looking for a lower price, you're going to get money off your closing costs, money towards your rate buy down, you know, reduce price on the home. You know, buying new construction may not be such a bad thing. But again, stay on top of the builders. This is what I tell you guys. Like if you have to get in, like bring in your own home inspector, inspect every phase of the build, you know, all this stuff I warned you guys about. But it may not be a bad idea to consider it just because of all the incentives that they're offering. But I'm not surprised, Poppy, to hear about that in North Carolina, because the same thing's going on in South Carolina. I have a friend that's in the Charleston market. Same thing's going on down there too. Because it's just, we got all these homes out there now.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you know, like a lot of the areas that you mentioned, Jackie, it's in the Carolinas the same way, specifically North Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, pandemic boom towns, right? So, and not only are these pandemic boom towns, but also in addition to that, like you hit on, Jackie, Texas, Florida, and some of the Carolinas are some of the few states where people were moving to, and they actually had space to build new homes.
That's right.
So it takes both to build new homes. You can't just have the space or just have the people. You have to have both. Yep. And so both of those states identified very early on, hey, in Texas, Florida, some of the Carolinas, some of these places, hey, there's demand here. Atlanta, there's demand, and we have the room. Let's start building homes.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing some of those, you know, new homes being completed. Some of the demand is pulling back, and, you know, home building is like, you know, trying to turn a giant cruise ship. It takes a little while. It doesn't just do it, you know, at the drop of a hat. So
absolutely,
we're seeing some of that factor in.
Absolutely. Yep. Andy says, hi from Flagstaff, Arizona. I'm a seasonal community, mostly second homes, and I'm using an outside realtor. Recently divorced, have dropped the price, not getting action from outside realtor. Yeah. So Andy, I've been hearing about Arizona. I've had a couple of leads reach out to me, people come onto the channel thinking of selling and buying in Arizona. And my contact out there has told me that it's definitely softened a lot. So again, that was one of those pandemic boom markets that people were moving to. So yeah, now we're seeing that softening. But listen, get back to us. I want to know when you sell your home, because it will sell. Indiana homes are setting their pricing high, but then you see them drop 20K in 3 months and another 10K. Yeah. Oh, they're sitting. I just think that's what he meant to say. They're sitting. Yep. Okay. So listen, guys, now we're hearing from other parts of the country, like now Indiana homes are sitting on the market. So that's I don't know. Like, I don't wish for a crash, but we need balance back to this market. And I think
I agree.
A good sign.
I agree completely.
It's a good sign.
I think we need the inventory, and I mean, lest we not forget, right? We're talking about, for instance, the Sparrow, right? The comment that we have highlighted right here, we're talking 20K, 10K. Yep. I don't know what the average, you know, price point in Indiana is, but let's just remember that in a matter of 3 years, our year-over-year appreciation on average in the first year was like 12%, 15%, and then like 16% the third year. So when you hear about people dropping the price by $20,000 and $30,000, relatively, they have still accrued quite a bit in equity and overall, you know, positive equity in the home, even if they are having to drop a little bit. Nobody likes dropping the price, but it's almost like, hey, I made $10, I lost $2, I'm up $8. Well, it's hard to be really upset about that.
Yeah. I agree with that. Poppy says, one clarification for North Carolina Triangle, even sellers of existing homes on the market are slashing prices as existing homes are sitting a long time now. It seems that buyers are scared. Yep, they are. They're holding back for sure. I was out with one of my buyers this morning, and we were looking at a house. And again, you know how the market is here. And already, you know, we see the roof is like on the seller's disclosure. The seller said that they didn't know the age of the roof, the unknown, right? So now here we start thinking like, oh, you know what? I don't want to offer list price because now I have to replace that roof, you know. And then there was a couple of other things that we spotted in the house. Beautiful home, but there was the primary bathroom had to be renovated. So, I mean, like my buyers, they're seeing it too. They're like, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna hold back.
If there's ever a time to have a great buyer's agent guiding you, now is that time. Why? Because, you know, you may see a house come on the market and maybe the price is higher than, you know, the seller is being a little bit over aggressive on the pricing, but it meets all your criteria. And you've been looking for 6 months, 9 months, you're frustrated, all the things.
Yep.
A good buyer's agent is going to pull comps in that area. They're going to say, okay, well, this is what is trending in this area, which happens to be about $20,000 less than what the seller's asking. That information, instead of you just jumping on it because you don't want to lose it, because you finally like the house in the neighborhood you don't want to lose, unless you're okay with that.
Yeah.
That information might allow you to take a step back and either give them a lower offer or maybe just sit on your hands a little bit, just be like, hold off a couple weeks. And the other flip side too, Jackie, is what all this talk. I mean, this negative is a positive. This negative is a positive. Price drops, price drops, price drops.
Yes.
Opportunity.
That's what we all want.
Opportunity. And a buyer,
absolutely.
If you guys are out looking for a house now, you want to go into like Zillow, you can sort by time on the market on Zillow. You go to the ones that are a month, 2 months on the market and focus in on those houses and probably get, not all, because a stick in the mud sometimes is a stick in the mud and it is what it is, you know, but a lot of sellers, I mean, I've talked to sellers that have said to me, I've asked my agent, I'm ready for a price drop, but my agent is telling me to stick at the price.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Why? Well,
so it's like,
you know my answer to that.
Make an offer because, you never know.
Yeah. You know my answer to that one, why they want to stick to the price because it's a bigger commission check. But anyway, I didn't say that.
And they want to look like a hero.
Yes. Is it, Rocky and Eddie ask, is it crazy for me to sell my oversized house I don't like at all to go rent for a while as I look for a good downsize option? I don't think that's a bad idea at all.
Do it. You live one time. Do what you want. I mean, that's a very reasonable situation to be in, where that seems like a good decision. If all the dollars and cents work out, right?
Exactly. Yep. If it works out for you financially, if the rent's going to be a little cheaper for you for a while, you bank some money, take the proceeds from the sale, put it in the bank for a while, earn some interest on that, and then when you're ready to go, you don't feel the pressure.
Yep.
To you have to buy a house because you're closing on yours, and then you're gonna, God forbid, you pick another house and then you end up hating it because you were rushed to buy it.
Yeah, I would even say that even if your rent is slightly higher than your mortgage payment, at least you have the freedom and flexibility to wait for that right house to come along. Yeah. And what is that worth, right? You can't put a monetary value on what is the flexibility of jumping on an opportunity worth, but having that rental could potentially allow you to do that. So even if you take a little financial hit, if it puts you in a good strategic position, it could be worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. JM says, potential win. Waiting to hear back at an offer tonight in Central Mass. We originally lost it to a cash offer, but they backed out. Fingers crossed. Oh, I love when that happens.
Yes, this is why you stick with it.
You stick with it. That's why I tell my clients, they're like, oh, I'm going to get outbid. Put the offer in because you never know. And it's happened to me several times with my clients. They're like, oh, they backed out. Guess what? We got it. So 90. Oh my God. I was just talking about you recently. Hello. Welcome back. I haven't seen you in forever. My property is pending sale under contract in 5 days. Congratulations. Woo. Love it. Love it. Love it. This is great. A $300,000 house that needs work, new kitchen, 2 baths. But it has new roofing and new AC. How much should I ask for a price reduction? $50K. So if it's brand new on the market, I don't know what market you're in, but typically we say, if it's been on for a while, I'll typically say, offer like 5% less, 5% under the 5% under list. So do the math. What is that? 5% is,
well, 10% would be 30. So we're talking about coming up on 20% under.
Yeah, exactly. That's 20%. I don't know. It all depends. It all depends on how long that house has been on the market.
Yeah.
So if it's been on for a while, then put it out there. But if it's recent, I don't know if it's going to be accepted. Oh, cash deal. But listen, even if it's cash, it doesn't make a difference for sellers. Yeah. Especially if it's brand new to the market, they'll wait it out.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
So just being honest with you. Sydney, recently in looking at listings, I've started to look at 2 things. If the basement dry and is the attic properly ventilated, preferably with ridge and soffit vents.
There we go.
Very smart, Sydney.
That's good stuff to look at. That's the type of stuff that a lot of buyers don't look at. They're looking at, but what type of flooring? And is it, what's the paint color? It's like, no. That's looking at what I refer to as the dirty areas. And that's where you're going to learn a lot about what the house is telling you.
Yep.
And I do it all the time. Every house I show, I walk outside, and all my clients, they think I'm so weird when I do this. I walk outside, I immediately look up at the eaves. Yep. And my first thought is like, hey, if the eaves are painted nicely, not cobwebbed and not rotted, the rest of the house probably is going to be in decent shape. It's just those little indicators.
Yep.
Yes.
So looking in the basement, another thing I do is we don't have basements in California like you guys do back east. Like we have the little little tiny basements where like maybe you can walk in and they're like maybe stand up. Sometimes you have to crouch.
So Joe, where do you put all the dead people?
That's a great question. We have to bury them in the backyard. It's a little different.
Okay.
Bury them in a different spot.
That's good to know.
And I'll walk down to that basement and I will take a big old whiff and I'll try to smell natural gas, pests, right? Or any type of little creepy crawlies. So just those little things. So you're looking at the right stuff.
Yep. Question. I will be selling my home in a couple of months. I found 3 realtors that I would like to interview. What questions should I ask to see who's the best candidate to sell my home?
I think Jen's got a video on this whole freaking thing.
Jen has the perfect video for that. But
I have several.
She has several videos about that, but
several.
So
yes.
I'll kick it off. I mean, what would I be asking a realtor? I would be asking, oh God, what's the first thing?
Where do you start?
There's so many things.
There's the list is long. I mean, you want to know about their expertise.
Yeah.
You want to know about their, how long have they been in the business, but not only that, how many homes they've sold, what their overall experience is, where they've sold the homes, which you can get online. Go on, Zillow or homes.com, and that'll tell you what the agent has sold in the last 5 years and where they've actually sold those homes. But you also want to ask, what are you going to do for the money? I'm going to pay you this commission. What are you going to do for it? Put them on the hot seat. You want to know about marketing. You want to talk about, all the different things. How are they going to bring their value to the table? And the video I did recently, I talked about the fact that a professional agent will be ready for that question and be able to articulate what they bring to the table. Okay. As opposed to an inexperienced agent or an agent just wants your money, whether it be a buyer agent or seller agent. They're going to say, well, I can put it in my MLS and I'm going to put the offer together for you. So what?
There's so much more to it.
A turkey can fly in a hurricane. Any agent can do that. What else you got?
Exactly. So Jen, you bring up a really good point because that's the problem we're seeing with those 80% agents, right? Because they're the ones, and I just went on a listing appointment about this. The person had an agent, and that's exactly what the agent did. They put their listing on MLS, and that was it. No communication, nothing. That's what you want to make sure. That's the number one question you want to ask, like as far as the level of communication. Like for me and my team, like we do market updates, so we do like weekly updates regarding showings. The feedback from who's ever seen it, though, that's the information you want. You want to be in constant communication because if you have an agent that's just goes incognito once it's on MLS, that's not good. This is so stressful for sellers.
Yeah.
I think buying a home is stressful. Selling a home, it is so hard because you're so emotional. There's so much emotions tied to the home.
Yep.
And you want, it's just so nerve-wracking waiting to hear like, oh my God, do we have an offer? Did they like it? What didn't they like about it? And what, it's like you want to have all of those answers, and you want the agent to be able to answer those questions. Another thing, Jen, I wanted to bring up, depending on the market that they're in, that agent, you got to know how they're going to handle multiple offers too.
Yes.
I'm going to raise my hand. Can I say some more thing?
Yeah.
we'll allow it, I guess.
We'll allow it.
You I think this is probably one of the most important things. You want to see how well they listen to you.
Yeah.
When you're sitting down with your buyer agent, interviewing your potential, your seller agent, an agent that does all the talking, nope. They just like to hear the sound of their own voice. These are all my accolades, all blah, 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 blah. That's not why they're there.
Yeah.
They're there to serve you. How can they possibly serve you in the way you want to be served?
Yes.
Unless they listen to you.
That's a great question.
So you want to ask them a question, but then see if they answer and then ask you a question.
Yep.
And then see how they react. Are they a good communicator? Great. Are they going to communicate in the way that you want to be communicated to? You just like email. You just like you like texting. You like. I had clients that say, you know what, Jen, I would rather you call because I had this one gal that didn't have it. She's, retired. She didn't even have a computer. That's okay. I'm a chameleon. I'm here to serve you. How do you want to be communicated to? Here are all the things. Here's all the value. How can I help you?
Right.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off one of Jen's points with, is the agent going to actually listen to what you say? I've been on a lot of CMAs. I've been on a lot of buyer consultations. I've seen a lot of other agents work. And I would be so surprised at how many times I would show up to an appointment and I was one of the few agents in a room full of agents doing multiple things. And I was the only one that had one of these out.
Yep. Oh, I'm constantly writing.
This is called a
Pages.
pen. Do you remember what this is? A pen. This is how we used to write before we had keyboards and stuff. And whenever I go to a listing appointment or buyer consultation, one of the first things I do is pull up my pen, pull up my notebook. And when I hear something important, I make a note of it. And it's not just like how many bedrooms do you need, but it's also like, oh, also we have 2 dogs and one's a Chihuahua and one's a bigger dog. And I'm like, okay, now I know like this could affect things, the dog stuff, right? So that's really important. And the one thing that I'll add to this, then we can move on because we've been here for a while. But the one question I would always ask any agent, whether they're buyer agent or they're going to be your listing agent, and this is no offense to this group of people, but this is something that you should know as a consumer, is that agent part-time or full-time?
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally
there,
agree.
and,
Totally
and there's
agree.
no offense to the part-timers. They can do a good job too, but that makes a difference. And it might make a difference in, what you see as being fair compensation for that agent or what you can expect for them or how quickly they might communicate. Again, not putting any part-time agents down, but no agent's going to come out of the gate and tell you, hey, by the way, this Saturday I got a shift at Chili's. They're not going to tell you that. And that's something that you should probably ask them.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, I agree. I mean, again, there are some part-timers that can do it and they do a bang up job.
Yep.
But you got to,
it's what's tough about that is the fact that this job is not just transactions. This job also entails continuing education, studying the market, learning, and as things change in the industry, how do I have to evolve as an agent so I can stay on top of the commission rules or presentation rules or as marketing evolves? All of that, research takes time. If you're a part-time agent, when do you do that?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah, that's
right.
You're
right. Hello, Charlton. Welcome back. With this price dropping the buyer's market, will flippers make a comeback? I don't know. I really don't know. Time will tell on that one. If the prices come down low enough, and it also depends on interest rates too, right?
I think flippers will always be there, but certainly when inventory is low and when the consumer end user, people like our clients, people that we're going to sell houses to, and they're going to use them, right? They're going to fix them up. They're going to use them to live in.
Yep.
When there's so much demand by that segment, flippers have to be really aggressive. The one area, at least in my local market in LA, where I see flippers still having a stronghold is on those really, really dilapidated homes, the homes where, they're hoarder homes. They're homes that have been neglected for 30 and 40 years that, most buyers couldn't even get a loan on, even if they wanted to buy the home. And we're seeing that flippers still have some traction in those areas, but they're going direct to that seller, directly to the owner, and they're putting those deals together. We're not seeing a lot of flippers buy stuff from under, first-time home buyers,
right?
At least in my area,
right? Yeah, they're going to go for the, they're going to go for the more, like you said, the dilapidated, the hoarded homes. GM has a question: if a house has passed evidence. If a house has passed evidence of termites in floor joists, but no current activity has been treated, no major structural damage, would that worry you? If you have a structural engineer to verify everything is good, then I would say it would probably be okay. But I would have a structure engineer just to check. Don't rely solely on the home inspector for that one. But it's worth the money.
I think it depends though, Jackie. I think it depends because a structural engineer up here is going to run you like $1,000.
Same here.
It's going to be a lot of money. And the reality of it is, up here there's like 3 types of houses. Houses that had termites, that have termites, or don't have them yet.
Right.
This is just the nature of the beast. So I would rather see a house that's been treated already.
You're right.
Not have anything done. And then the home inspector, a good home inspector, will be able to go in and get into the crawl space or the basement, look at the beams, look to see if there's mud tunnels, either on the inside, the outside. They can see the evidence. And they also, if you have bait stations, does the bait stations actually have bait in them? You know, if they do, that's a good sign. That means that, you know, that there isn't hungry critters taking it, you know, eating that away at the bait. So I don't think, I mean, for us here, I think it depends on the area, because up here, I would say no, not worried. If they have had, you know, history of treating and everything checks out at the home inspection, right? Then no. Yeah. I don't think, I think it's just one of those things of owning a house is a steak and a plate for a termite, Jackie. Pass the salt. Like, it's a steak and a plate for a termite. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big temptation. What are you going to do?
I know. Oh, for always, forever, for life. Thank you for being here. You're so nice. Everyone hit the like button.
Everyone should be smashing that like button. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, look at the three of us all together on one stream. How could you not like this?
I know, right?
What's not to like?
Exactly. I love you, Jen. All right. Victor, my home's been on the market for 2 weeks at $599. It's getting tons of views, saves, and shares, but no showings.
Ooh, Victor.
A similar but less upgraded home nearby just went under contract at $555. I'm thinking we're dropping to $579. Do you think that's enough to trigger activity, or should I go lower?
That's a tough question to answer.
That's a tough one. Listen, I can't tell you what to do, but make sure your agent is looking at the current activity.
Yep.
Like to the day, right? So if that house just went under contract at the price, maybe it's time to reevaluate where your price needs to be.
Yeah, so, it would be interesting to know what region this is. There's just a lot of very specific details that we would need to really say. But here's the basic rule of thumb, and I think Jackie, Jen, I would love to know if you agree with this as well. But in Victor's case, so we have a home. It's been on the market a little while. Looks good. It's upgraded, he says. And $599. They've got showings and saves, but no offers. So I came from the school that when you're getting showings and you're getting saves and people are looking at the home, but they're not making an offer, that means you're just a little overpriced.
You're in the right church, wrong pew.
Yes, exactly. So potentially maybe that $579K is where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But you gotta kind of rest on your agent for that, because we're talking about dropping the property $20K, and you don't want to do that haphazardly, because that's $20,000. So
exactly.
Make sure that you lean on your agent for that one. See what they say about it.
Hey, it's our buddy Paul Likens. What's up, Paul?
Hey.
I let my sellers know what's going on, even when we've had no showings. Let them know what is going on. They want you to keep them informed. Yes, Paul, absolutely. Even if the market's slow, reach out, say, this is what's going on. Like you all know, I'm trying to sell my property down in Delaware. It's dead down there right now, but my agent still can't. She'll call me up. She'll send me a text. She's like, this is what I'm learning about what's going on. Like, she's giving me updates, which are like, okay, that's fine. Like, I'm not upset. I understand it's slowing down. It's totally fine. But it's nice to get that reach out to say, this is what I've done. This is what I found out. This is what's happening in this market. So,
and I'm going to add to that real quick. So, a lot we talk a lot about, terrible agents, and maybe people don't like their agents, whatever. There's also the opposite that can be true, where you like your agent. You really do like them, and you don't want to feel like you're bothering them. So you don't ask them because you're like, she's busy, because I get that.
Yeah.
Like, people will be like, I was going to ask. I'm like, no, you need to ask, because, that's what I'm here for. Yeah. So if you are not getting that response, my opinion is that regardless of the market, if your house hasn't sold, you should be hearing from that agent at the minimum once a week with a market update. How many showings, what kind of online activity, are you getting feedback? Are you not even getting inquiries? What is happening? And what is the plan this week? And that's not to say, they've got to roll out the red carpet and do all this promotional stuff. No, it's okay. The plan is that if we go another 2 weeks and we don't have activity based on what I'm seeing in other areas of the market, I recommend we do this.
That's a great point.
You've got to have a weekly update from when you have your house on the market. That is the bare minimum. But if you like your agent, do not say, you don't have to call if there's nothing going on. Please don't do that. Let them do their job. Let them do their job.
Yep.
I tell clients all the time, they go, Joe, I didn't want to bother you with this question. I didn't want to bother you with this. I'm like, no, please send. That's why you have my cell phone number. If I didn't want you to talk to me, I wouldn't give you the number that rings my pocket.
I get
Call
that a
Joe
lot.
at 3 a.m. He loves it.
No,
Yeah,
no, it will be on
exactly.
Do Not Disturb and it will not go through. But,
Yeah.
but you can still text me.
We text Joe late at night. We're on the East Coast. I text him late at night. I'm like,
Oh, it's like 7 p.m. here. I'm eating dinner. It's all good.
oh my gosh.
And I will say, about the whole what's happening if it's not selling thing. It's important to also remember, like you said, Jen, it's not like we're going to roll out the red carpet every week and do some crazy promotion to get people to stop by the house because, you don't want to look desperate, right? So you don't want to have an open house every day. That doesn't look very good. So there are some times, the moral of the story for the consumers out there, there are some times where you just need to be a little patient with things. Between that and the agent saying, hey, listen, it's Monday. If this doesn't happen by this time, this is what we're going to do. That's good. That's what should be happening.
Right.
And that all ties into like knowing what the market is. If your market, based on the data, is that the average time to get an offer is 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Don't be discouraged.
You're right.
5 days in. If the average market time is 30 days before before you're getting an offer.
Yep.
2 weeks in, just because you hear on a live stream, I've got my house under contract in 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. They may be up in the Northeast. It doesn't matter. You got to look at your local data
right. You have
to determine what your actions will be. Because if the marketing time is 2 weeks and it's been 3 weeks and no activity, you got a problem.
Yep.
But if it takes 30 days and you're 2 weeks in, you gotta be patient and give it time and watch what's happening around you to see if any changes. But you got to know the data where you're at.
Exactly. I just want to say a quick hello here to Bob Curran. Bob Curran, I'm so glad you're on tonight. Bob's one of the OGs. When I started live streaming a few years ago, Bob was one of the first ones that used to come watch me when I would talk about New Jersey stuff. And Bob reached out this week and commented on my video. Bob, I just want to say hi, and I'm so glad you're still here. And thank you for your support and being here these past couple of years. Anyway.
Yeah, I will say that for the regulars, it's really nice when we get people supporting us.
I love my
peeps.
Great. It's just when I see an old name like 90 Gardner showed up before. 90 was used to watch me all the time too. It's like, this is so awesome. I love seeing my people. Michael, I'm a disabled vet, and my wife and I just bought our first home. New build 625 at 4.75% zero down. And builder paid half the closing cost of my VA loan. We close the end of the month. That is the biggest win of the night. I love it.
Can I just say, Michael, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, Michael. You know what? You earned that, Michael.
Yep.
You earned it.
That is
very well earned, Michael. Well done, Michael.
Thank you so much. That is great. I love it. Any guidance on buying foreclosures? There's a pocket in Central PA where I see a lot of foreclosures. Do agents work with clients in these? Yeah, we typically do.
Yep.
We typically do. Just be careful based on you got to look at the condition of the home. Banks are not going to make any repairs. I mean, Jen's an expert in this. Jen used to sell a lot of foreclosures back in the day, but the banks, when you're buying this, a lot of times they prefer the cash. I did sell a couple of foreclosures a few years ago. They want a quick close. And again, you're buying it as is. You can do your inspection for informational purposes. That's it. They're not going to do any repairs. So just know what you're buying.
The biggest thing that people think they're getting on a foreclosure is a deal.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, because I was on the seller's side, I represented the bank.
Mm-hmm.
I worked directly with the people that were controlling the price, the list price, the accepting price, the whole 9 yards. They want top dollar as much, if not more, than an average seller.
That's right.
And you're not getting a bargain. And oftentimes sometimes the price, I'm like, this is crazy, but we still we gotta start up here and we kind of work our way down until you get to that magic number, but it's not a deal. And the biggest issue that I've found is that, a lot of these places, when you got to remember that when people get foreclosed on, and, you may have a situation where, surprise, surprise, the homeowner may have left the house not on good terms.
Yeah.
And have I seen homes where there has been cement shoveled down the toilets? Yep. Have I seen homes where the current owners turn on the water and walk out the door?
Yeah.
Yep. Have I seen situations where the heat, it doesn't get winterized? There's water in the pipes, the heat is off, and it goes an entire winter. Guess what? You're going to have busted pipes everywhere.
Yep.
And the bank doesn't care.
That's right.
And you may not know.
Yeah.
You may not know. So I typically, when I was selling them, a lot of the folks a lot of the buyers were investors, because investors have deep enough pockets to buy it and deal with it. And, I remember one, as I was getting away from it, one guy had one property that literally was exactly that. He went through with his contractor and everything looked okay. Literally 2 weeks after it closed, he said, yep, we got the water turned back on and we had to replumb the entire house.
Oh, good God.
So I would be, unless you're looking to start up a business, an investment property business, that'd be one thing. But for a primary residence, I'd be super, super leery.
Yep.
Super leery.
Yep. Definitely.
I agree.
Priscilla has a question. I'm in Houston, Texas. I've been looking for homes further out in the country between 5 and 10 acres. A lot have been major fixer uppers and start around 250. How much is typically negotiable? It's, it depends. It really comes down to the house. It does come down to the market. If you're working with a real estate agent, they really should be know the market, know the comps, know what homes are selling for there. So if you're working with an agent, you got to lean on them and have them show you the comps, the comparables to what has sold, what's under contract, what is active. Right? You want to compare the active homes to what you're thinking about buying. Like, okay, what does this house have that this doesn't, or vice versa? Right? So that's how you would go off negotiating. Okay. So if that house is priced at 250 and it does need a lot of work, you look at what else is sold and say, oh, you know what? We can probably go in at say 225. But again, you really need to lean on your agent for that. Just make sure they're doing their homework.
Yep.
You know what, Jackie? I got one thing to say about that. It's the more you know. You said it.
The more you know.
The more you know.
That's why we're here.
And you know what? Those that were born before, what would you say, Jackie, 1980? Would know exactly what that little
I know.
was.
A lot of people would know. They would know what that is. Stacy says, last year I moved to a nice suburb north of Kansas City. Because of past car break-ins, my car insurance company more than doubled my car insurance. That's something I never thought to check. Oh, dear God, Stacey, I'm so sorry about that. But it feels like insurance is just going up with everything.
It is everywhere.
Homeowners, flood insurance.
This is a good thing with auto insurance. If you are moving like neighborhoods, like majorly moving from like one county to another, or, not just like, oh, we bought a house, 5 blocks away. You do want to check on car insurance and obviously home insurance. Yeah. I mean, I'm from the land of screwed insurance. So in our transactions, before we do anything,
are there misfit toys there, Joe? I just want to know. Are there misfit toys? Misfit toys and screwed home insurance. There we go.
Gosh.
I know, it's crazy.
So go ahead, Joe. What were you saying?
The first thing we do now is we get insurance on the property. We first look to see if we can get insurance on the property, and then we look to see how much it is, because we had a listing that you would think is not in a fire zone. We sold it and we're in escrow. Buyer goes to get insurance. Insurance company's like, no, it's too close. It's got a hillside behind it. This hillside was maybe 40 feet tall. It was just like not like a mountain or open space. But the insurance company looked at it on a map, saw trees, and they were like, no. And so then the buyer had to go through the FAIR plan, which is a subsidized state insurance that costs an arm and a freaking leg. I know Cackleberry Cottage is in here somewhere. She loves talking about the California FAIR plan. And it ended up making their insurance cost like $8,000 a year for a very generic patio home that you would never think would cost that much.
That's a lot.
So you guys have the fires.
Yes.
We have water.
Yeah. So there you go.
Insurance. So yes, we're not we're not down in Florida where they have hurricanes and all that. We still have we have the coastline. So we have the same thing. We have properties within a certain, within a mile, half mile of the water. We do the same thing.
Gotta
and
look.
check the FEMA maps.
Yep.
Check and see how much insurance does it require, flood insurance? How much is the flood insurance?
Yep.
You know, and what is it going to cost? You know, up in the Northeast, we have to do. I mean, I think that's like if you're anywhere near any body of water.
Yeah, very similar thing. And obviously, right now here in my area, they're just insurance companies are very on guard with the fires that we had and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So just really, there was a period for about 4 or 5 weeks where insurance companies were just like, no new policies in California. We're just not, which if you're trying to buy a home in those 4 or 5 weeks, that's a bit of a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, that's speaking of Cackleberry Cottage,
Cackleberry.
Look at that. Our home is foreclosure. Got it for $78,000. Was a bit of a dump, but we fixed it up, and now we're on the last few projects. Good for you.
Awesome.
That's excellent. Just got a letter from the unfair plan today. What could ruin my day? Oh, geez.
Sorry, Cackleberry. I'm
sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Insurance bills.
Thank you. See, this is why I love having Jen on, because she's just full of sound effects. Anyway,
she's so happy to do it. She's so excited about her soundboard.
Loves it. Really? She just can't help herself. No. Danny Perez says, what do you consider a housing crash?
20% drop.
20. I was going to say 20 to 30% drop. Yep.
20% 1 year.
And I would go one step further personally.
Okay.
And I would say 20 to 30% drop at minimum in a year or less. And it really needs to encompass more than just like a county or two or a city. You know, and now if we're talking about a crash in a specific area, okay, perhaps. But if we're talking about like a housing crash on the scale that a lot of crash bros like to talk about, it would have to be like half of the country dropping 20 to 30% in value. So that's what I would take. You know, if it depends on the scope that you're talking about, right? So if one city in one county in one state drops 20%, okay, that area has crashed, but the housing market has not crashed.
So correct. You know what? So here's the thing on the crash, right? So, and I would say this in all honesty, like, you know, three real estate agents on a live stream. Oh, it's not going to crash. Everything's great. And everything's like rain and strawberries and blueberries and blah, blah,
buy a house today
and rainbows. That is not what we're doing here.
No.
What I would say is tell me how you think it'll crash. Because every day, you know, we all go through the data. We watch, you know, preparing for my weekly live stream, Jackie, Joe, we all do the same thing. Prepare for the live. Look at the data. Watch the data. Look for clues. Look for clues.
Yes.
If someone can show me the clues, the warning signs, the red flag, house prices being high is not a clue.
No.
Why? How can we say that? Well, Joe, California used to be able to buy a house for $50,000 in California.
You could.
Yep.
And you could do it. And you could do it here on the East Coast. You could do it everywhere. You could buy houses for $10,000.
Yeah.
And they went up. And they went up. And they went up. And they went up. So we've been in this housing market for 50, 60. How the National Association of Realtors, right? I think it started like 1920, 1930, something like that, right? So, 100 years. When's the crash? Like, when's the universal crash that's going to get it back to whatever target? That doesn't make any sense. Historically, that's not supported. There's not enough data for that.
So this comment here is 20% from insane highs, normalization, or a crash. It would still be a crash.
Yeah.
For 20%, which I think we will see normalization. We will see we're going to see
corrections. There'll be corrections.
Softening.
Right.
I think it has to soften. And in other words,
we need it to
softening here where Jackie, I mean, New Jersey might be, you know, separate, but I mean, here, Massachusetts, we're already seeing softening, but softening still means positive appreciation.
Yes.
It just means a lesser percentage.
Absolutely.
The 50-year
exactly
average. The 50-year average is 4.5%.
Yep.
Yeah.
4.5% a year. That's the 50-year average.
Yeah.
So we just need it to soften, and at the same time we get those interest rates down and get income up. But like, there's no. I want to see the data, and having having the housing market unaffordable is not.
No, and
is not data to support a crash.
And that's what a lot of the crash bros have been saying for a long time. Houses are so priced, they have to come down. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to do it.
You know why? Because of the amount of money in this country.
Correct.
Because of the trillions of dollars in equity in this country that will not support a crash because the money's there.
Yep.
The first-time home buyers, the middle income home buyer, like they are struggling. Yes. But there also are so many people. If everybody was struggling, that'd be a different story.
Yep.
But there's so many people that have money. That's why it's still glued together.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
so
That's right. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. So is it possible to buy a house and not be able to get insurance at all? And if so, what would you do?
Good question.
well, you can buy a house and buy it cash.
Yep.
And you don't have to have insurance.
You're right. I was going to say that
Mortgage companies will require insurance. Mortgage, you can't buy a house.
You can't buy a house without it.
And without getting insurance if you're getting a mortgage.
And that's why it's really, really important that when you are buying a house, and if you are in an area where insurance is either super expensive or it can be hard to get, like some of the areas that we've talked about, you know, Southern California, Florida, Texas, areas like that. That's why it's really, really important to look at the availability and cost of insurance very early on in your escrow, because let's suppose you have allocated $3,000 a year for insurance, and then you find the house and you go to State Farm and say, State Farm, I need insurance. Here's the address. And State Farm says, oh, you're in a flood zone. It's going to cost $11,000 a year for your insurance. We can do it though. Well, now you might say, I can't afford the house. That might make the house unaffordable to you. And that's why by looking early on in the escrow, you can most likely still cancel your escrow, get out, and hopefully get your money back. And in the event where you call up State Farm and you go, hey, I need an insurance quote on 123 A Street, and they go, sorry, we're not insuring that property. Mm-hmm. Well, that would be bad news to get if you already committed to buy that home, because now you're in a little bit of a pickle.
Yeah, just a little. I'm most worried about the collapse of competent inspectors.
Well, I know that in Massachusetts, they now have to be licensed.
They didn't have to be licensed in Massachusetts?
Mm-hmm.
Stop it.
Oh, nope. No, really? Not up until, I want to say, gosh, my brain, not too long ago, 5-6 years ago.
Are you for real? Oh my God. No, we're licensed
in Jersey. You would think Massachusetts, like,
no, here in Jersey, like, it's probably one of the most corrupt states, and we have licensed home inspectors. Like, how did that happen? Oh my God. And you didn't? That's crazy.
Yeah. But I wonder, that's data, Jackie. I don't know. I don't know how many states require, home inspectors require, how many states that have licensing requirements for home inspectors.
I don't know.
That'd be interesting. You continue. I'm going to do a little research.
You do that. So Austin has, thanks for being here, Austin. Right now in Broward County, Florida, there are over 400 condos for sale under $100,000. That's crazy.
What's normal though?
There are over 10,000 for sale in the whole county. Holy cow. Is Paul Lycan still in the chat? Paul, if you
get the resident Florida expert.
Paul's the resident Florida expert. Yeah. So Austin, I'm not surprised about that. I had Paul on last week talking about this very thing. He says now condos are sitting on the market in Florida. The days on market is now 12 months. It's taken a year for condos to sell in Florida. It's bad. On Long Island, there is more inventory than normally for this time of year. Additionally, the percentage of homes listed that are at the bottom of the local market makes up the largest percent of the listed homes. Well, that's good to know about Long Island. I do refer a lot of buyers out to Long Island.
Same.
So that's good to know about the inventory. That's good. Thanks for sharing that, Austin. I appreciate it.
Jackie, 36. 36 states require home inspectors. 14 don't. Or states that not requiring home inspection licensing. California, is that true, Joe?
The inspectors I use are licensed. Now, what I've seen
maybe it's voluntarily
yes, or they're licensed by a non-mandatory organization. So like there's the National Association of Home Inspectors. Certified home inspectors. So you can be like, oh, I'm a certified home inspector with NACHI, but I'm not a licensed home inspector. And that's what I always get. I always get certified home inspectors with NACHI that are master certified inspectors.
So California, Colorado, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Maine, Interesting. Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Utah, Wyoming, and Washington, D.C.
Oh, go figure.
Interesting. Wild, Wild West.
Look at, I know, the Wild, Wild West, right? Oh my gosh. Okay. So, okay, the pistol hour. Could I sell my current house since I've made money and move to another state where I can buy a cheaper home for cash? Especially when work has been in limbo,
Of course
in limbo current
Sounds
town.
like
Yeah,
a phenomenal idea.
it totally.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do that.
Do it. Enjoy the money you've made from real estate and find a nice house you like in a cheap area.
Cash it in. There you go. All right. What else? Do we have anything? Oh, okay. Jay Garcia. The crash comes when all the millennials who realized they got suckered into buying at the bubble peak simply stop paying. Late 2026 to 27.
I had a question about this one because I saw this one.
Okay, go ahead. Chime in.
If Mr. Jay Garcia is here, I would really love an answer. Quick question. Why? Why would millennials just decide?
Why would they stop paying their mortgage? Exactly.
Why? Like, so all the millennials, which by the way, millennials, obviously we're a large buyer segment and boomers are still the highest though.
Yes.
Boomers are still the highest segment. No offense, boomers. But why would millennials just stop paying, number one? And number two, I think there might be a misconception of how many millennials actually own home versus millennials that don't own a home. And the number is surprising. But I don't see any reason why millennials would just opt to say, you know what, forget it.
Well, Joe, here's the analogy that I'm thinking about, right? So I've got my money in a retirement, an IRA, right? And I put that money in there and it's in it, and there's an ebb and flow with the stock market. Some days it goes up, some days it goes down. But the purpose of that is long term.
Correct.
I am not touching that money until I retire.
Correct.
I'm not going to all of a sudden freak out and say, oh my God, the stock market has dropped 20%, 25%. I'm gonna cut my losses and cash out. That's the same thing. When you buy a house, 30-year mortgage, it's not necessarily meaning they're going to be there for 30 years, but this is a crock pot situation, not a microwave. You're committed to a house. You're just going to ride the wave because the market always does this.
Yeah.
It's not a straight line ever. So it's like, yeah, they may be buying here, but guess what? If it dips, the next swing is always higher than the last peak. Always. You look at the last 50 years and that's the way it's been.
Yep.
So it's like, why, unless they can afford it, which you hope they get into a 30-year fix so it doesn't change. But
well, and then if we can talk about, say, you know, show me why you think millennials in mass won't be able to afford a home in 26 by 27. That could happen. I'm not saying it won't happen, right? It could, but there's no data right now that supports that happening. And this is a good one. They will stop paying because their parents get laid off. So you're saying that at that point, a 40-year-old millennial can't afford their home because their retired parents get laid off? I don't follow really that.
So do you see what I put up here on the screen? This is from National Association of Realtors, a share of buyers and sellers by generation. This is for this report was done April 1st.
Yeah.
So you see 17%. So 17% of older millennials were buyers. Younger millennials 12%, Gen Z 3%, Gen Xers 24%. So you're right. I mean, millennials, they're not buying. They don't all own homes, right?
And even if we took both those numbers, right, those buyers numbers, the 5% plus the 12% plus
12 to 17. Yeah.
Even if every single millennial stopped paying their mortgage because their parents got laid off, which I don't understand how that works, but even if that happened, that wouldn't tank the market because all the millennials are spread out across the entire United States. It's not happening in one concentrated area, and it's such a small number that it really wouldn't have an effect on anything. So that wouldn't crash the market.
Yep. Right.
Totally.
Austin, thank you so much for your generous super chat.
Austin.
Because listen, when you guys throw these super chats at me, it means the world, and it also helps support the channel too. It helps me, you know, with keep bringing the content, help with the editing and all that stuff. So this is amazing, and you guys don't have to do that. It's just so when you do it, it's amazing. Thank you.
Appreciates it.
So Austin says Bill HB 913 in Florida passed 2 weeks ago now allows HOAs to secure debt from the state to meet reserve requirements, all without the condo owner's approval or consent. Do not buy a condo in Florida. Great show. The more you know. Thank you. Holy cow. That's dumb.
I gotta look into that.
That's
we have
crazy.
to look into that, Jen. That's dumb. Really?
That's kind of scary.
Who thought that was a good idea? That's crazy.
Obviously the residents in the state of
the politicians in Florida
voted it in.
Yeah, government thought it was good. I just want to say, but Austin, look at that. Austin dropping the comments, got a great chat going, dropping the super chat, and then dropping some knowledge, telling us about HB 913. It's like, gee, at this point, we should just give them a link to the stream and get them on.
Yeah, really. I don't know, Austin, come back. I might have you on here.
There we go. As for you, my friend.
Okay, Yoni says, what should I expect if the home appraisal is less than a listing price as a buyer? What can you expect? Well, you can go back and renegotiate the price, or if you waive the appraisal, you're going to have to come up with more cash to closing to cover that appraisal gap. But typically, so that's what happens in a crazy seller's market. That's what we do in Jersey. That's how things are done here. People have to pay the gap if that home under appraises. But nowadays, we hardly see homes under appraise here as of now.
That, just to be clear, though, that needs to be negotiated and decided
correct
front. So in other words,
yes, right out of the gate.
Like, you're not going to get stuck with paying the extra gap if there is it appraised for $275 and you're paying and your offer was $300. Don't fret about having to come up with an extra $25,000. You can reset it, but the reality of it is depending on where you started at the ask price. I mean, in this day and age, I'm sure you guys would agree, is that, given where we are with data and the way the market has been, that seller better be able to justify that list price. So anything over the list price, now it's got to be a discussion like the seller, because I know when I'm representing sellers and it's, significantly 10, 20, 30,000, 40,000 or more above asking about list price, I ask the buyer agent, is the buyer willing to cover that difference in the beginning stages, because of the fact that this is our list price.
Exactly.
We have the comps to support the list price. Anything over that, Mrs. Buyer, that's you.
Yep.
How are you going to do that? And some of them say, we're not going to do that. And that's fine, knowing that will weaken your offer if you're in a multiple offer situation. But that's something that you can, discuss. You should discuss up front. Have a strategy up front before you get to that point of appraisal.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for saying that. Okay. Millennials living in a home paying a mortgage can't just walk away from their mortgage payments. It'll ruin their credit for years, and their lenders will pursue them legally too. Absolutely. That's what's going to happen.
And you know what? Millennials, from the reports that I'm reading, they are way more conscientious with their money than the previous generation.
And why is that? Because they were young kids during the crash. They lived through it. So they're not spending to do that again
needlessly, which is why they're having trouble, because they're not committing to mortgages that they know they might not be able to pay.
Oh yeah. Yep. I work with millennials all the time. And this is that, they were approved for a lot more, but they will never go up to the max that they're approved for. What would be a good percentage fee for a seller agent that becomes a dual agent? Buyer has no agent. Should the seller agent get the full amount fee, 5 to 6%, as if the buyer has an agent? Okay. Jen's cringing. I know.
We got 4 words into that, and they were like, "Oh my god."
I would rather get a root canal.
So
that's my opinion on a dual agent. I think dual agency should be outlawed. I don't think it should be legal.
Well, right. But listen, in some states, like where I am, where you are, Jen, it's legal. It's legal in California too, right?
Legal in Massachusetts.
It's legal.
I question, every situation is different. If you have a team structure or you have an office structure that you can hand off, a listing agent can hand off a buyer.
Right.
But that whole idea of selling one person who represents the seller, and that same person is also going to represent the buyer at the same time. How is that not a conflict of interest?
No, it's not.
And absolutely. So my suggestion is you find out what the agent's response to a dual agency is, and if a buyer contacts them directly, find out what their plan is. And the only time, Jackie, I will not bring in another agent is if I get approached by a buyer that they understand. I have Massachusetts with disclose. I work for the seller, Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer.
Right.
I will not represent you. And they're like, we don't want representation. I had one a couple of years ago. They were like, oh, my dad was a real estate attorney. We don't want representation. So, I can't give you any advice. Yep. And I didn't. And there was a hard line in the sand. And then I do think that the agent should get a piece, not equal, but a piece, because it is more work, because you don't have another agent on the other side carrying the load.
Exactly.
But not double.
I don't think the full,
double.
I don't think the full 5%. I don't agree with it personally. Look, and like you said, if, the buyer could come in and say, I don't need representation, so you don't have to pay them anything. So, like Jen said, make sure the agent asks that buyer if they want to represent themselves. They don't want representation because they may listen. They're trying to, I hate to say it, don't want to assume, but the agent is they're going to double dip. They want to double end it. Right. And get the most commission as possible. So ask that question. Go back to the buyer. Can they represent themselves? Would they be okay with that? And then this way you don't have to pay.
Oh, my boy Jay's back.
Hello, Jay. It takes a small number of strategic defaults to turn the 20% normalization into a 30% downturn. Prices are set on the marginal seller buyer. Funny how people think that only works one way.
Okay, so we're talking about strategic defaults, right? I can only assume that what you're talking about is how mortgages are repackaged into funds, and if a few of those mortgages were to default, it would downgrade the entire package of the mortgage, similar to what we had in The Big Short. I'm assuming that's what this is saying. My one retort to this is that if you look at Fred economic data, we've had the second lowest number of delinquency rates on single-family mortgages ever since 1991 when this was tracked.
Wow.
So I understand what you're saying, Jay. You're saying, oh man, if it doesn't take all of them to default, it only takes some of them to swing the teeter-totter over. But we need more than 1.77 on a scale of, just to give you an idea, it was at a measurement of 11.5 in 2010.
I was going to ask you that, Joe.
So we are about a 10 times less, experiencing 10 times less the number of delinquency rate on single family mortgages right now. And that's coming from the Fed. So I get what you're saying, Jay. I don't think that's going to be the situation here. Could it be? Absolutely. It's not 2027 and I'm not clairvoyant. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I am saying is the data is not showing that is likely to happen.
Thank you. Scott closes on Wednesday. Congrats, Scott.
Fantastic.
Big win, Scott. Good job.
Huge win. You get into the closing table. Dead man voting. Home we bought listed for $249 in August 24, dropped to $209 in January 25. We are paying $172,000 today in Alabama. Wow. That's a big drop.
It's huge.
Okay. We set aside $30K for that just in case we find something we can't live without to shore up if appraisal is low, but that is my limit. And so is 25% DTI in the home. Very smart. That's a very smart approach.
That's smart. That's a big appraisal safety fund. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and if we're being honest, like, we got the term economic uncertainty is floating all over the place because there's a lot of changes.
Yes.
There's a lot of changes happening. There's a lot of moving parts right now in the economy. Tons of moving parts. I think it's smart to shore up your reserves. Just in case.
In cash, too. Not a bad idea.
Are you preparing? Are you a prepper waiting for World War whatever not? How everything's gonna, zombie apocalypse or whatever not. No. But I think if all of a sudden, things get a little more expensive on the purchasing of goods, or you do get laid off, or unexpected something breaks, and now that furnace costs substantially more because of different factors.
Yep.
I think it's just smart. I think it's smart to have a good, healthy, huge, a nice, healthy reserve.
Yeah.
Right. Austin has the link to the bill. It's pitched as HOA transparency bills. 60% of HOAs in Florida fail to meet their cash requirements to conduct repairs reports and inspections. Condo owners can't sell their units.
It is a mess.
God, what a mess down there. Oh, I feel bad for these people. I'm torn between new construction, DRB, or resale home. Both are comparable size-wise. DRB is given $28,000 flex cash. Any thoughts?
I don't know. Which one do you like more? Which one has a better location? This is tough. I mean,
I know.
I know there's I think there's arguments for both, and I think it's all what you want personally, because you look at buying a new home versus a used home. The used home is broken in. It's like putting on a nice pair of blue jeans that are nice and broken in. You don't have to worry about the any unexpected whatever not repairs, or things when it's brand new.
Yep.
Builder brand new. That does not mean new. That doesn't mean that nothing's going to go wrong.
It's true.
So there's value in that, but also, you got to look at what's important to you. I mean, I had somebody tell me once that they're like, I want a house that no one else has used the toilet in. I said, okay, then.
All right.
So, okay, buy the house. I'll buy you a new toilet.
Right.
Exactly. That was a good answer, Joe. There you go.
But like
credit for a toilet.
That's why it's so, significant or personal.
Yep.
Personal. There's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah, that's right. Poppy says, former banker here, lenders had to substantially tighten their lending standards, raise the bar due to significantly increased federal lending laws and regulations as a result of the dot-com bust. Yes, that is true, Poppy. So we're talking about foreclosures and millennials not paying, that stuff. You're right. It's hard to get a mortgage these days.
Yep.
It is.
And then the GFC, they tightened them even more.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Way tight.
Yep. The Pistol Hour. What do you think of those home warranty companies?
Well, Jackie, us New Englanders, I find that being up in New England, New Englanders as a culture, we're very suspicious of warranty companies.
Well,
same
here.
We don't ever ever see them at all.
The only time I ever integrate it into an offer is when I can get the seller to pay for it, right? So sometimes what's kind of standard practice here and what we've done, at least in our area, is that my E&O company, my errors and omissions insurance for my work, has said, if the buyer has a home warranty company, we'll cut your E&O premium in half if something ever goes wrong. Your deductible in half if something ever goes wrong. Because now it kind of shifts there's another avenue of resolution if there's an issue. So normally when I write an offer, and out here it's kind of customary, I'll say, seller to pay for home warranty of buyer's choice for up to $800 or something like that. And then that way the seller's paying for it, the buyer gets it. And I tell the buyer, listen, the home warranty company is not going to fix all of your problems perfectly as soon as you call them. Mm-hmm. Take it with a grain of salt. It's not costing you any money, and it might save you money in the long run.
Yep.
But it is a warranty company. It's not an independent trade service with people. So just get what you can out of it, but don't rely on it.
Definitely not. Okay. Hobby New York says this. I know this might be a dumb question, but why shouldn't you buy what the bank approves of you? So what I was saying before is, so a bank could approve, I have clients that are approved up to $1 million, but they don't want to spend the full $1 million, right? Sometimes, they're approved for it, but there's other costs that you need to factor in when you're owning a home, right? So when you have other bills to pay, so people get nervous and they don't want to max out and say, oh yeah, I could. They're approving for $1 million. I'm going to go for $1 million. They try to go under that price. So you're going to try and buy a house for say 600, 750, whatever, 800,000, just to keep that monthly payment lower, right? So as much, even though they say you're approved for this much, you don't have to go for that full amount, because sometimes it's just, and then you have to take into account the property taxes. So by the time, you get your pre-approval, you go and you find that house, say it is $1 million, but your property taxes are going to put your monthly payment over the edge. It's going to be, you're going to be strapped. That's why you got to step it back and then look for the lower price home. A lot of my clients do that, and I don't blame them.
Two schools of thought on that. number one, the bank does not take into consideration inflation.
Right.
That grocery bill, your grocery bill may double in the next couple of years. They don't take that into consideration. They're banking on you eating mac and cheese for 30 years. That's what it is. They don't take that. Great, you're going to buy this house, but they don't factor in that you like to go to the movies.
Yep.
They don't factor in that you like to travel. They don't factor in that you're trying to save, maybe to build a family, have kids or whatnot. They don't care. Yep. The other thing is you don't want to look, and this sounds like a sales tactic, but try work with me here. Believe me when I tell you, you should not be looking at the price. You need to look at the payment.
Yes.
It's a 30-year commitment. And the thing that I ask my clients is, okay, great. You have a pre-approval. Fantastic. What, based on your budget, and if you don't have a budget, I don't care if it's your first house, second house, third house, 10th house. If you don't have a budget, stop, pause, figure out your house, figure out your financials, then we talk. Because you need to know how much you can afford. Yeah. And in that housing payment, I ask them, what is comfortable? And then we take that payment. And now, Jackie, like you just said, now you can dissect it, find out, what I do as the agent. I look at the cost for insurance. I look at, because I can get a rough idea, a cost for the taxes, principal, interest, taxes, PITA, P-I-T-A, principal to interest, taxes, and P-I-T-I, excuse me. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So that payment, which is going to be different if you're buying a condo, because now you've got to add not only principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. You still need insurance for contents insurance, but now you have to add on HOA. But that payment is what you need to be living within. And if that payment happens to be on the upper side of your pre-approval, great. But oftentimes it's not. You got to look at what that comfort payment is.
Yep. Put her home up on the market for 12 days, decided to pull it, had second thoughts, but 5,000 views on Zillow and over 105 saves, yet only 5 walkthroughs.
Yeah, that might mean the price is too high.
Well, but maybe. Yeah. But I mean, to have 5,000 views, 105 saves, I don't know. That many views, though, I would imagine you would be getting people in the door.
I feel like it also depends on the market, right? Like if they're in a very highly competitive market where people are just going to look at any Zillow notification that comes up, right? Like, oh, a new home came up in a very impacted market. Like I got to look at it and I'm going to save it. Oh, I'm going to save it because the price is too high, but I'm going to see if they drop the price. That's what I do on Facebook Marketplace to like every cool car, right? I'm like, save it. I'm not saving it because I'm going to buy it. Right. I'm saving it because I want to see if they drop the price later on.
Yeah. Well, that's true, Joe, because a lot of people, Zillow did a whole marketing campaign about that, about people like just, it was like early pandemic. Remember that? And they were like, just like people sitting on their sofa, flipping through Zillow, properties, you know what I mean? But just for fun, So,
Yep. Lakeland, Winter Haven, house is sitting at the market for more than 6 months. Is Florida housing market crashing? Many houses in the same situation. In Orlando, some apartments are dropping $30,000.
Yeah, they're just trying to keep up with the market. That's
I know. I know. It's correcting in Florida right now. I don't think
we're problems. Yeah.
It's not. I wouldn't say we're crashing. It's correcting,
and it will stabilize. We just got to give it time.
Yep. Exactly. Trust Noel, I finally closed last week on Wednesday in Green Township, New Jersey. Offered $30,000 over listing price, but I love the house. Congratulations. Good for you.
They just said magic words.
What people, but listen,
I love the house.
If you love the house, it's your forever home. And listen, in that part of Jersey, if that's what homes are selling for, it's sad to say, but if you only went 30,000 over asking, you did really well, because there are people that are still paying between 100 to 200,000 over asking in Jersey. So you did well. Okay. Anthony is under contract in Bergen County. 660 was asking. We had to go up to 700 to beat out 4 other offers. That is telling. I'd love to know where in Bergen you bought, because holy cow, if there was 5 offers on this one house at 660. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a telling sign right there, because you all know how crazy it is in my market. So that gives me hope. That gives me a lot of hope. How do you know if you're overpaying for a house? Well, you really don't.
Well, no, you can do comps.
You
know,
do
you look
comps.
at past history.
But I'm talking about if you're in a multiple, like if you're in what we're dealing with now, like with these multiple offers and people are throwing any amount of money over it and you're into the home and you're like, okay, am I overpaying for the house? If you love the house that much and you feel that like this is what I could do, like what I could afford, this is the best I could do to get this house that I want. That's what it comes down to.
Jackie, the only thing I would add to that though, is if you have, this is where the buyer, people say, there's a lot of naysaying about, the value of a buyer agent. I can look at the house. I can make the offer of my house. I can do all the things. The one thing you cannot do, you cannot separate emotion from the process. A buyer agent, that's what the buyer agent's for. So as a buyer agent, a good buyer agent, 20% buyer agent is like to talk about, the 20% of the market, they're the best ones, the pros. Yep. They'll be your leverage. They're going to be the thing that balances you out. Right. So if you start getting crazy, start going higher and higher and higher, my hope for you is that your agent will step in, because I've done this many, many times. Mm-hmm. Jen, do you think we're going crazy? Well, let's look again. Let's revisit our original consultation. And you told me everything that was important to you. Yep. Everything. And it's now you can kind of pull out and extract. Are you just doing this because you're getting caught up in the hype and because it really doesn't meet all the things that are important, but you really like are taking in about location, or you're taking in about the kitchen or whatever? Or is this really the one based on the conversation you had at the beginning of the process? Mm-hmm. Because we're looking at it from I look at it from a very pragmatic view. It's not my house. I'm not going to live there. So I want to make sure that I can step back very easily and say, don't buy it. Right. But that's where you need that balance. Yep. You have to have that balance, because it is really hard for you to take yourself out of that situation. That's right. Poppy says, regardless of what the bank approved us to borrow, my husband and I never borrowed up to that amount, far from it. We bought a house we could afford if one or two of us lost our job. That's key. A good strategy. Really good strategy.
Good way to do it.
100%. So, all right. So guys, this was a lot of fun. Oh, wait, we have this last question really quick. I don't want to ignore this one. If I sign a contract for a new build for $475 and it appraises for $425 at time of closing, does the builder have to honor the current price? No. Nope. No, they don't. Yeah, that works the same as whether you're buying a pre-owned home.
Yep. You got a contract. You have a contract. It's agreed upon.
Yep. That's right. All right. So everybody who's watching, you all know Joe's got a channel.
Here's my channel.
Here's Joe's channel. Go check him out. If you're looking to move to Claremont, California, out in the LA area, please go visit him. And we got to pull up Jen's channel, right?
And Jen, you stream.
So go on Jen's channel. She may not have maracas on her in her videos, but you can get some really awesome content about selling a home. Jen is notorious for her great content about that, so please go check out her channel.
And Jen's live. Jen, you live stream what?
Tomorrow night.
Yes, Tuesdays.
Yes, she's on
6 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m.
Okay,
Eastern.
and so this is perfect. So this is perfect.
Tomorrow night, I'm gonna have Jackie on the live stream.
Yep.
Joe, I was gonna ask you if you want to go next week because you bailed on me last week. No.
Yes, I will.
I'm bitter. I'm not bitter at all. Not bitter at all, Joe.
And for all the people watching, this is working out perfectly because Jackie, you're Monday, Jen, you're Tuesday, and I'm Wednesday.
Oh, that's right. Joe is Wednesday.
On Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific.
The 3 J's.
So it's 9:30. Look at that. Monday.
JJ.
Yes. So anybody, I'll be streaming on my channel on Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. So come hang out.
Awesome. And really quick, guys, if you need to be referred to an agent in your market, please go to my website, fill out the forms, and I will get back to you ASAP with an agent in your market. So thank you, guys. So this is fun, you guys.
This is great. This is awesome.
This is a party. Appreciate you being here. All right.
Thank you, everybody who showed up today.
Yes, thank you, everybody. And we will see you next time. Have a good one.
See you guys.
Bye.